Welcome to Wine Soundtrack Australia. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world.
In 30 ounces, discover their stories, personalities and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Alison Levine, and today I'm with Adam Lauder of Mount Langi Ghiran from Southeastern Australia, the winemaker. Adam, welcome, and tell us about your winery. Where exactly are you located in Australia?
Thanks for having me, Alison. So we are located in the Grampians region of Western Victoria. So we're about a 2-hour drive west of Melbourne in the southeastern part of Australia. So think of Sydney, Melbourne's, a day's drive down from there. We're about 2 hours west of Melbourne in the Grampians region.
The Grampians region. So I'm not familiar with this region. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's a region that was one of the early ones. It was first planted out in the late 1840s, early 1850s, so a lot of history. Very prominent wine region in Australia back in the day with making champagne and other just dry reds, so clarets and Burgundy style wines, but a lot more sophisticated region now.
Very cool. And tell me a little bit about your winery. When was it established and how large is it?
So it was first planted in 1969 by 3 Italian brothers. They'd moved to Australia, migrated to Australia, and they thought it was a pretty cool spot that reminded them home, so they planted some Shiraz in 1969, and then after that they'd planted some Cabernet and Riesling in the mid-70s.
So is the name Mount Langi, are they from Piedmont?
No, they're from Veneto, but close enough, I guess. It's Italy. Yeah, same diff.
What's the story behind the name?
The name it's an indigenous name for home of the yellow-tailed black cockatoo, so a large parrot, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are you working with all estate fruit, or are you purchase fruit? And if it's all estate fruit, how large is your property?
So our property, we have 2 properties, and they're both about 70 acres roughly in size. 85% of our production is Shiraz, but we also do Riesling, Cabernet, a little bit of Grenache, a little bit of Pinot Gris, Sangiovese and Barbera, but they're just in tiny amounts. Roughly, we probably do 300 odd metric tons. I don't know if anyone's going to understand the metric system that's listening to this, but metric tons, so real tons. Sorry, what was the rest of the question?
And what's your total case production?
Total case production currently is about 25,000 cases.
And your wines are available around the world or in certain markets? In
certain markets, so domestically obviously in Australia, but they're also available in the US, in the UK, and in some Asian countries like Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, for you as a wine drinker, what is your first memory relevant to wine?
First memory relevant to wine was probably, I grew up around the corner from Mount Langi Ghiran, so I've been going there, visiting the property since the late 80s. I went to school with the vineyard manager's son, and my parents are good friends with those the vineyard manager and his wife. Used to go there all the time. Parents would have dinner, wine was always on the table, so that was probably my earliest memory of wine.
Huh. And so now, as you have tasted a lot of wines, what would you say is one of the most memorable wines you drank, and what was the occasion?
Oh, apart from Mount Langi's Shiraz that I take everywhere with me, I've done a few harvests in Bordeaux, and the owner of the chateau that I worked at, it was his 50th birthday, and he was born in 59, and we had a Chateau Palmer.
Wow.
Which I can't really remember the wine, but I remember the occasion, and the wine was great. I couldn't describe it right now, but it blew everyone away, and it was just more about the occasion than anything.
I think a lot of times the most memorable wines we drink have to do with the occasion. It's not just, it doesn't stand on its own as a wine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So now that you've traveled the world, I know you've been traveling around the U.S. And visiting different markets. You've traveled around the world. When you are traveling around, is there a particular region that you're a real fan of? Are there certain wines that stand out to you?
I really love Bordeaux, but I also loved Napa. I feel really comfortable here in California, and I could have seen. Well, I did get offered a job to stay here, but I was just too passionate about Australian Shiraz, and I really wanted to get back to the Grampians. It's where I'm from, and it took probably 10, 12 years of travelling the world to realise that it's not a bad region. It's a very good region to be in, and we make world-class wines there, so that's what drew me back there.
And so if we were to come to your home, what kind of wines would we find in your home? Are you drinking a lot of your own Shiraz? Are you drinking wines from other places or other grapes?
I do have a lot of our own wine at home, but I don't tend to drink them. I'll share them with friends or give them to friends when they're there, but otherwise we tend to drink a bit of Italian Nebbiolo, so Barolo, Barbaresco. We love Napa Cabs. We drink Bordeaux's, German Rieslings. It's just whatever we were in the mood for at the time, basically, yeah.
Anything recently you opened up at your home, or maybe you were out to dinner, that just really stood out as a wine?
Yeah, a couple of nights ago I had I can't remember the producer's name, but a really nice Saint Joseph Syrah. It was beautiful, really lovely, and savoury. That's what I love about Shiraz as a variety. It can be really savoury and captivating at the same time.
So I'm curious, you said you do a lot of Shiraz. Obviously you're talking about how Syrah has this versatility. Do you think there's a such thing as a perfect variety? Is Shiraz a perfect variety, or is there no such thing?
I'm not sure. I think that's up to someone's perception. I think where we are, Shiraz is the perfect variety for where we are. I think it does it really well. Mount Langi Ghiran is very well known for Shiraz. So I think it varies region to region what people will think of the perfect variety. I don't think anything's perfect, but we, as winemakers, everyone strives for perfection. I think that's what keeps us going, is we're always trying to perfect it, always trying something new, and you keep learning every time.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, thinking about striving for perfection, a lot of people strive for scores. They like other people's opinions. I'm curious what your opinion is on wine critics and scores.
I actually don't care about scores at all. I know they're important for marketing and selling the wine, and it's important if people believe or they really like a writer's style and they can trust them, then that works for them. But personally, I've moved past all that sort of stuff. I just don't really care. Do you like the wine or not? If you do, great. If not, it's fine. There's millions of other wines out there to drink.
So as a wine drinker, getting down to wine, red, white, or rosé?
Red.
I would ask sparkling or still, but I think we're going to say still red.
Yeah, still reds for sure. Yep.
And when it comes to wines, obviously, you mentioned a little bit about celebrating and drinking a wine on a celebration that had a moment. A lot of times it is that moment, and pairing wine with food creates a lot of those moments for us. How do you approach pairing wine and food? Do you follow rules? Do you not follow rules? Do you have suggestions you can share?
I used to follow rules. When I worked in Bordeaux, it was, the owner was flying in Michelin-star chef for a week at a time, so it'd be a 6 to 8 week vintage, and there'd be a new Michelin-star, a chef from a Michelin-starred restaurant every week, and it'd be a degustation, and it was all about education and how wine matching is really important. And I got really swept up in that and believed it, and to a certain degree I still do, but also who cares? Like, just have it with whatever you want. Do you like the wine? Yeah, things aren't going to always match, but I think people should just dive in and have a crack and see how they go.
So would you have your Shiraz with fish?
No.
So you do follow some of the basic tenets.
Just the very basic ones, yes. Yep.
I know Aussies have a good tendency to drink. Good drinkers, right?
Yes.
Pretty good drinkers.
Good. Yep.
So any cures for a good hangover?
Keep drinking. Just stay drunk, I guess. It's probably the safest thing. No, I like to mix, it's probably very conservative, but I'll make sure I have plenty of water. I've got little kids, so I don't enjoy being hungover.
No.
So I try to avoid it as much as I can.
No, once you realize you have to do things in the morning, you realize.
It's over.
So I'm curious, for somebody, you're talking about how you're from a very special region, it's an old region, and Shiraz really shines there. So for somebody who hasn't had the pleasure to taste your wines yet, what do you think they're missing out on?
I think especially in the Grampians and at Mount Langi Ghiran, it's a cool climate, so people's perception of Aussie wines, I think, at least in the States, is that they're big, jammy, bold reds, whereas where we're from, especially Mount Langi, we're known for, that cool climate style. It's always berry fruits, so I think raspberry, blueberry, blackberry, heaps of spice, and especially black pepper, so we're very well known for having spicy Shiraz.
Wow. And what makes it cool climate? Is it elevation? Is it location?
combination of the two. We're in between two mountains, so there's Mount Langi Ghiran to the west and Mount Cole to the east, and so we've got our own climate basically. So yeah, and we're relatively high. We're at about 350 to 380 metres. I'm not sure what that is in feet, but about times 3.
Okay. Now, you said more than half of your production is Shiraz. How many different bottlings of Shiraz do you do?
Oh, I'm going to have to think about this.
Roughly.
Yeah, roughly. There's about 6, I think. 5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6, plus you make all the other wines you were talking about. Yeah. So I'm curious, if space aliens were to land on your property, which of your wines would you want to present to them to say, welcome to Mount Langi?
Welcome to Earth. Mount Langi Shiraz for sure, our top one. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And what is specific about that wine?
It's off the original block. It's on its own roots because we've never had phylloxera in the region.
Wow.
And it's been a cool climate benchmark for Australian wine and been used internationally as a cool climate benchmark. So that'd be the one that I'd want to show the aliens for sure.
Very cool. So we know that every vintage tells a different story. You've been doing how many harvests now?
I'm about to enter my 40th harvest.
40th harvest. You don't look a day over like your 25th.
Thank you. How many wines have you had?
I'm curious, we know that vintages vary, but how much variation do you see year to year? Do you see a lot of commonality, a lot of variation? What does a region like yours give you?
With the last 4 seasons have been relatively tough, but generally, if you look at the last 30 years, we've been relatively consistent. There's only been a few times where Mount Langi hasn't made our top wine. Mm-hmm. So it's warm days, cool nights. It's a bit of a cliche, but that's what we tend to get most seasons. So we get relatively consistent seasons and our wines are consistent.
And are there any sort of signs or predictors that you look for that'll tell you what a harvest is going to be?
Yeah, how wet it is in summer, basically. If there's a lot of rain during the growing season or, coming up to harvest, then it's not a good sign. It means we're possibly going to have disease pressure and we're going to struggle to ripen the grapes, but luckily that's pretty uncommon.
Huh. And you said that you have 2 vineyards, about 70 acres each. Mm-hmm. How much time do you spend walking in those vineyards?
I can't even count that high.
Every day?
A lot, yeah. Especially, growing season, I'm out almost every day. Not walking every row, but I'd check in on every block just to check, health check, vibe check, just to see how, trying to get my head around what's coming in and what the quality is going to be like.
Have you been known to talk to your vines? In that vibe check?
Not out loud, but there's probably some telepathy going on for sure. Yeah.
More you to them or them to you?
Me to them, yeah.
Have you, in all these harvests that you've done, either for you yourself or for you and your team, have you set up any sort of good luck rituals that you do at the start of harvest or throughout harvest?
No, maybe I should. But I've seen it when I worked at Araho. Bar Araho used to open a bottle of Ceylon champagne when the first Cabernet came in, and we'd all get like a tiny little amount in a glass each, and the rest got poured over the Cabernet. I'd think, oh, what a waste of champagne. But no, I don't have any rituals, no.
You don't open a bottle of champagne?
No, we don't. We'll just have a welcome barbecue for everyone that's there and try and, huddle the team and tell them how great it's going to be and hope for the best.
That's a tradition.
Yeah. I guess it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, when you were a little boy, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you know you wanted to be a winemaker?
No, not at all. I wanted to be a mechanic. My dad was a mechanic. I've always had an interest in cars, especially muscle cars. Love the sound of a V8. I wanted to do something with my hands, so I still am. Yeah.
And then do you fix cars on the side?
I try to. I've got a couple of project cars, but since I've had wife and kids, they're rusting away. Yep.
So when you're not working, how do you spend your free time? Dreaming about the cars and playing with the kids?
Playing with the kids. It's usually building Lego and they're trying to make some cool four-wheel drive or, some drag car or something to impress me. But it's usually entertaining the kids, playing with the kids, riding the bikes, just doing what they want to do, basically. Yep.
And if you were going to do something for yourself, what do you like to do in your free time?
I have a dirt bike and I live right at the base of a mountain, so it's not running at the moment. I need to get it fixed, but when it was running, I used to like to go for a ride through the bush on that.
Nice. Nice. And any other sports that you play or are a fan of?
I'm a fan of AFL, which is Australian football. I don't play. I'm too old to play now, but yeah, that's probably the only sport I'm really a fan of.
And who's your team?
It's a team called Geelong. It's a Victorian team. They won their grand final a couple of years ago, so it was good times.
A winning team. So if they were to win the grand championship again, which of your wines would you want to celebrate with?
Definitely the Mount Langi Shiraz for sure. Yeah, I'm giving it to the aliens in the football team.
Yeah, the Mount Langi Shiraz. That's just the winner across the board. So, I'm curious, you said you've worked 40 harvests. You've spent a lot of time working in wine. Is there a piece of advice somebody gave you along the way that you find that carries you through in how you approach work, or maybe it's even how you approach life?
Early on, when I was probably 19 or 20, I was encouraged to go and work a harvest over here, and I did. I worked at Chimney Rock in 2001. And the piece of advice that Trevor Mast gave me, who was the winemaker at the time, the guy that really put us on the map, was to just don't listen to all the noise and just believe in yourself. And that's what I've done since.
And if you could give a little piece of advice to our listeners, what would you want to tell them, in addition to the own advice you just shared? I
would say if you're interested in wine, just start drinking it and learn along the way. You don't have to listen to anyone. Just listen to yourself. Try wine, buy some books, educate yourself, go to some classes maybe if you're super interested, but otherwise just believe in yourself.
So when you look back at your career, what would you say is one of your proudest achievements to date? And not your children, because I know that's a proud achievement, but they can't be your proudest achievement.
Proudest achievement? Geez, I don't know. I haven't really ever thought about it. Probably the fact that I've ended up being chief winemaker at Mount Langi Ghiran, where I grew up around the corner from it. I've always loved the property, loved the wines. Every time I travelled to Bordeaux and to Napa, even when I wasn't working there, I'd bring Langi Shiraz with me to share with people and, to kind of show off what great Australian Shiraz can look like. So ending up back there as chief winemaker with no intention of ever doing that, I guess that's a proud achievement.
And you've been chief winemaker there for how long now?
Since 2018. Okay. So I'm coming up to my 15th harvest with those guys.
Wow. Hard to believe how fast time flies.
I know.
So complete this sentence for me. A table without wine is like?
Boring. Yes. Lifeless.
Simple as that.
Lifeless. Yep. Dead to me.
Okay, I have another scenario for you to imagine. We're sitting at a table with your wines on the table, and there's an empty seat across from you. Who would you want to fill that seat from any walk of life, living or deceased?
Oh, far out. You're not supposed to meet your heroes or any of that, are you?
No. In this scenario, you can meet your heroes.
Okay, I'm a really big fan of Iggy Pop, so I'd probably say Iggy Pop, because I've always loved his music since he started with the Stooges, did his solo career. I find his music really entertaining and poetic, and it's a mixture of, it's entertaining, it's humour, it's life lessons. So I think it'd be a really interesting guy to have at the table. Yeah.
See, that wasn't that hard. So you've been great. You've been really easy doing this. You're answering the question so quickly. This is moving so quick. No apologies. I think this is great. I just want to ask you, a couple of questions, and then we're going to play a little game. So one of the things is that, you talked about how you don't have that much vintage variation from year to year, but we do know that climate change is affecting things. Yep. So I'm curious where you think we're going to be in a few hundred years. You think they'll still be making wine, growing grapes?
Absolutely. I think, wine's been it's the second oldest profession, isn't it, in the world, second to something else. But I think humans are pretty resilient and they'll adapt. I think we'll still be making wine. I think we'll be doing it until the world blows up. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we can't live without wine.
I don't think we will. People will grow it somewhere. It'll always be growing wine. Yep.
Well, but if you were being sent to a deserted island because, the world was ending and you went to a deserted island, which 3 wines would you want to take with you? Any three wines.
Here we go. Of course, I'd take a Mount Langi Ghiran Shiraz.
I like your brand loyalty.
Yeah, thank you. What else would I take? Probably a German Riesling. I can't name any producers, but a nice, crisp German Riesling. I'm just a Riesling fan. And then I'd probably have to go with a first growth Bordeaux, like probably Aubryon. Something like that. Why not?
Why not? That sounds like a
burn on the sand.
Pretty nice trio of wines to be drinking. So, to finish off, I warned you sort of before we went live that we would play a little game with wine, just a way to pair wine with music. Just as you were talking about how you've paired wine and food and how there's an art to it, you know, music conjures up something with us, as does wine, and there can be synergy or harmony between the two of them. So thinking about some of your wines that you make, tell me music. So we're going to start with your, you know, top of the line, the Mount Langi Shiraz.
What music would I go with that?
Yeah.
Neighborhood Threat by Iggy Pop.
Okay. I think that's the perfect circle because it's... Now, you said that you do Riesling.
Yep.
So what about your Riesling?
Something steely, so it'd have to be heavy metal. I'll probably listen to Sepultura.
Okay. And I have a glass of Shiraz right now. Which one do I have?
I think it's the Billy Shiraz. So this is our entry-level Shiraz.
Okay.
Which is a good everyday crowd pleaser, so you'd probably need something easily listening. So I'd probably go with Dark Side of the Moon from Pink Floyd.
I like that.
Sit outside in the dark.
It kind of works. It's got a dark color, but it's got nice fruit. And you're right.
Yeah,
I get
just
the
a
spice.
nice flow. Yep.
And the spice. We have another Shiraz here, which is the Mast 2020 Shiraz. What about that one?
What would I with that? Something spicy. Just trying to think of what's on my iPod. So much. Probably ZZ Top.
ZZ Top.
Yep. For sure.
Very good. Very good. I'm not going to put you on the spot anymore unless there's a particular wine in your portfolio that you really, really want to pair with.
No, that's enough putting me on the spot.
Adam, I have one more question for you before we head off. And that is, what wine... I mean, you've traveled, you've spent time in Bordeaux and Napa, and you said you've traveled around, but what wine region is the top of your bucket list to visit?
Probably Barolo, yeah. I haven't been there. And I love the wines and I love Nebbiolo, so it's probably, I should go there and check it out.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should plan your trip there. And if someone wanted to come visit you, can they visit you? How can they visit you? Where can they find you?
Buy a ticket probably through Qantas, fly to Australia for a start, get to Melbourne, and then hire a car and drive out to the Grampians region. Yeah, that'd be the best way to do it. It's not a massive wine tourism region. It's more hiking and camping. So you'd need to get your own way out there, but definitely it's worth the trip. It's very spectacular. It's for me like coming to California and going to Yosemite. It's probably one of those journeys you need to do.
And are there a lot of wineries in that region, or are you one of the only?
No, there's a handful, but we're spread out. So it's not a compressed region like Napa or the Yarra Valley in Australia. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those places you need to grab a car and be able to drive.
So for the adventurous person, this is where they want to go wine tasting.
Exactly, yes. Somewhere remote.
Well, wonderful. Adam, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on Wine Soundtrack. I hope you've had a good time. It's been fun chatting with you. And I know I need to find my way out to Melbourne and to come visit Mount Langi. But in the meantime, I'm going to take another sip of your Shiraz and cheers you, and hope to see you in Australia next time.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack Australia. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.